Yeah, I think my superpower would be delegation and putting the right people around me. I think as a pretty young entrepreneur, this is my first venture. It's super challenging to wear every hat, and you have to do so in the beginning. And one thing that I've gotten really good at is building out teams that have the proper skill sets and delegating the things to the best people.
Welcome to the Build to Billions podcast, where we guide successful entrepreneurs and investors on their journey from millions to billions. We believe the key to scaling your business and compounding your wealth starts every single day with the mindset and practice of stewardship or ownership and applying billionaire biblical principles. Our ultimate goal to help you scale and compound your wealth and life so you can give more or all of it away to help MVPs. I'm your host today, Brett Swartz, and every episode we feature some of the world's top entrepreneurs, millionaires, and billionaires, where they share their insights, principles, values, secrets, providing each of us with the insights we need to reach the next level of faith, success, and impact. Hey, I'm excited about our next guest. He's out of the great state of New York, and he's the founder of Titus Wallet and advisor to T.xyz and Tari. He's addressing major challenges in the crypto space, from wallet fees to centralized exchanges and fraud protection. And he can offer us valuable insights into the risk of centralized exchanges and the state of anti-fraud features in digital wallets. Today, we're going to be talking about the easiest way to manage your crypto. Please welcome to the show with me, Dan Mulligan. Dan, how are you doing?
Doing well. Thanks for having me. It's a pleasure.
Absolutely. For our listeners to get to know you for the first time, and to give us just a little bit more about your story and your current focus.
Yeah. So I have been an entrepreneur in the blockchain space for about 6 years. Started off my journey working at a centralized exchange as a director of marketing and operations, moving on to a CMO role and building out products, dApps, really anything that has to do with decentralized finance. Along the way, I started bootstrapping my own wallet product in order to take care of some of the pitfalls that retail users face when it comes to being decentralized and using DeFi without having to have 10 different apps and go through the whole Megillah of Twitter and Discord and Telegram and all that fun stuff. We launched earlier this year. In about February, we raised a pre-seed round led by DNA and Michael Turpin's Transform Ventures. And now we're kind of raising a seed round and starting to kind of scale the app. We're live in both app stores and just getting started.
Yeah, I'm excited about this one, by the way, everybody. I think Dan's going to bring something to the show that we haven't really ever heard before, so it's going to be really neat. Dan, before we go into that, though, the easiest way to manage your crypto, I do want to take one other step back. I believe we've all been given certain gifts in this life, and these gifts have been given to us to be blessing and help to others. You know, some people call them superpowers. What would you say Dan's number one strength or superpower is, and how does that help how you help and bless people today?
Yeah, I think my superpower would be delegation and putting the right people around me. I think as a pretty young entrepreneur, this is my first venture. It's super challenging to wear every hat, and you have to do so in the beginning. And one thing that I've gotten really good at is building out teams that have the proper skill sets and delegating the things to the best people.
Awesome. I love that. That being said, let's dive right into the secret, the best number one secret, the easiest way to manage your crypto. And by the way, if you want to learn more about Dan and what he's doing, go to tituswallet.com. That's TIDUS wallet.com is the first place. So Dan, what is the number one secret to managing easy way your crypto?
Yeah, we're a big believer in simplification and staying as accessible as possible. You shouldn't have to use multiple apps to do the same thing that you could do within one UI and user journey and experience. We are an app that enables you to use everything in a modular setting. So if you are someone that is a Bitcoin maxi, a Solana maxi, if you're on Ethereum, if you're using EVM chains, it doesn't really matter. You could manage everything within the app. And we've really removed the ability to have to rely on web browsers. There's a huge thing where if you're using a MetaMask or even Phantom or some of the more advanced wallets, you're still having to go and find the URL, connect that wallet to that URL, do the things you have to do. And if you don't know if it's the correct URL, last year we had $283 million that was lost to just URLs that were bad within the crypto space. It is also the only thing that Google has not stopped. You could actually advertise completely faulty links for dApps online, and then if a user connects their wallet, they are completely drained and lose all their funds and likely don't return to crypto ever again. What we've done is we've simplified the accessibility to all of those things. In our wallet, you could go on ETH, you could stake, you could swap, and you could lend and borrow all within the wallet. You have hot links to all of the top DeFi protocols, so you never have to deal with whether or not you're clicking on a bad link or you're connecting to the wrong thing. And we've simplified all the way transactions work. So right now, if you were to go into your MetaMask and sign something on desktop, it's giving you a string of numbers and a bunch of things you likely don't understand. We've put all of that information into layman's terms, so someone who is completely fresh to the space could come in and know what they're clicking on and what they're doing right off the bat.
Wow. Okay, I'm blown away already. So it's and before the show, you said it's kind of like the Robin Hood for crypto, right? So, and we'll touch in on a few of these, but I want to really bring this out. So simplification, I think that's the key, right? And making everything under one app. Ideally, you're not having to go to multiple places to do multiple things. You can get all the staking, ETH, lend, borrow, and swaps, right? All within one user experience. And it's going to cut down on the fraud, because the fraud is a big piece of this, that 283 million in bad URLs alone. And it sounds like, yeah, Google doesn't do anything about it, which is frustrating. But at the end of the day, go make something, right? Go fix it. So that's what you're doing, right? Is that a fair summary so far?
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay, cool. So what's the number two secret to making this really easy, to a way to invest and manage crypto?
Yeah, I think a lot of people get caught up in the decentralization aspect of it. And there is a middle ground there. And I think that we've really done a good job of hitting on it. We're fully decentralized. It's your keys, your crypto. We do not store your keys anywhere, but we allow you to store them on your local device, meaning that if you happen to lose them, and a lot of people do, you're able to go and retrieve it through your own local storage system. On top of that, we've made on and off ramping really, really easy. So in a traditional crypto wallet, you go through a third party, you're brought to that third party's website. Often you do it with multiple third parties. For us, we've partnered with Cato Money, and it allows our users to use a credit or debit card, KYC right in the app. Takes about 3 minutes to get the entire process done. And because we have everything built in the app and we don't have to deal with third party extra fees or anything like that, we're actually 60% cheaper than all of our competitors across the board. Gives us a real advantage for someone that is coming and trading with $100 and now only has to pay a $2 fee, versus someone who is trading with that same $100 and now is giving up a huge portion of it, up to 15% in some cases.
Wow. Okay. So a couple things there. Right? I mean, I remember when even just me myself, right? I did some basic stuff, some basic Bitcoin, Ethereum, and maybe some 10 or 20 other coins, mostly on Kraken and such. And then I had good friends and even clients that are, well deep into decentralized NFTs, different things. And I mean, I've even tried to have them walk me through some of these things. And I'm just like, it's just so much, and so I it's just kind of dragged and you kind of just stop. You know what I mean? It's just like, it's just so much. So it sounds like you're fully decentralized and you're streamlining all of this. But I think you said a key thing, you're allowing you to store on your local device. I want to connect this other dot here too. I recently, I don't know, the past year, learned about 2FA. It's an app that's on the local device, but also you can put it on like a,
Yep.
iPad, you can put it on the iPhone, you can put it different places. Whereas Google Authenticator, like it typically, my understanding of it, and it could be wrong, it could be a change at this point, but it can only go on like one device. You lose the device, you lose you lose it all, right? You need to have those, unless you had physically stored those somewhere else. So the 2FA app, it's local to the device, but it can be multiple devices and it syncs up. So walk through what you're saying there. Am I picking up on that's what you're saying? Like, as long as you're on that device, if you lose it, it's gone for that device, but you could go log in somewhere else. Is that what you're saying?
Yeah, so the same way that you have iCloud and you have your entire setup for that, and you have Google Cloud, we enable both of those where you could just store the section of your seed phrase that you would need if something bad happened. That means if you lost your device, you'd be
Yeah.
able to quickly be able to reboot it from your computer at home or another phone or whatever it might be, and you're still now we're not touching any of your crypto. I at no point have access to it, and that's a
Right.
big problem I think with a lot of products that'll be popping up in the future, even in the now, some that already exist, where they're saying they're decentralized, but the realization is they could freeze your funds, right?
Yeah.
And if they could
Okay.
freeze your funds, then are they even really your funds at that point when it comes to crypto and whatnot and everything that it stands for?
Okay. Okay. Gotcha. Okay. By the way, we're learning all this from Dan Mulligan. You can learn more about him by going to tituswallet.com. Tituswallet.com also has nyccrypto.co, nyccrypto.co. So let's keep going on this. So what's the next, I guess, secret or thought on this that we should really be, digging into to really simplify and make it easy to manage crypto?
Yeah, I think a lot of people right now are interested in investing in things like meme coins and how do you access that, right? You saw this huge blow up when GameStop and AMC happened, and Roaring Kitty was posting all about it. And the only reason that people were able to access it was because Robinhood came out, right? Robinhood came out and it gave access to an entire generation of college kids and even younger to now be able to invest and beat the man, so to speak. We're trying to do that same thing for crypto. If you're someone who is terrified of joining crypto Twitter and dealing with the masses or afraid to get scammed to do whatever, you could use our app to participate and do it in an easy way. We're trying to enable people to participate in what's happening with meme coins right now, which is just billions of dollars in influx, lots of opportunity to make tons of money and really find financial freedom while also giving you access to the things in DeFi that are incredibly stable. Being able to stake your ETH and earn from it, being able to stake your Solana and earn from it, being able to take some USDC or Bitcoin that you have and borrow against it, right? Without having to have a credit check and losing your assets in a traditional loan or predatory interest rates or things like that. And we enable that all within the wallet.
This is so cool, but I'm going to geek out here in a second here because I'm getting excited on this. Okay, so let's give an example. So let's say I have 50,000 ETH sitting at Kraken, not doing anything with it, right? And I can transfer it over to Titus, right? And now I can immediately start staking it all within the app. I could trade it within the app. I could sell buy. Can I also sell it to cash and then send it to back to like Charles Schwab? Like walk us through that piece of it.
Yeah, so we do on and off ramping credit or debit directly to your bank account. There are fees associated because it's through third parties because we don't keep anything and whatnot. So you would basically connect all through the app, connect your bank account, and be able to transfer your Bitcoin, your ETH, whatever it might be, directly into that bank. Or if you're just looking to buy some ETH and you're totally fresh, you don't have a Kraken account, you could just use a debit or credit card and purchase right in the wallet. And the way that we work that's kind of interesting is you purchase on the chain that you're using. So you KYC once, but you're KYCing for 10 different chains. And now you're able to go and buy Bitcoin directly or buy ETH directly, but you're not having to repeat that KYC process that a lot of products currently make you do. And it's a pain in
Oh,
the butt to do for essentially anyone that's a regular user, or like you're taking the picture of your ID, you're doing the selfie and that whole nine. And if you're doing that more than once, it becomes annoying and it's
100%. Okay. So at this point, why do I need Kraken? You know what I mean? Like that's what I'm wondering. Is there any reason why you would have a Coinbase or a Kraken or anything else that's a major?
um I'll be honest. I think that having a centralized exchange is important. Like it is a part of your crypto toolkit. There are tokens that may be offered that are not offered in other places, right? There's different opportunities there, but I think as long as you're pairing whatever your centralized experience is with a good decentralized experience, you're in a good spot. So we pair really well if you're on a Kraken account or Coinbase account, and maybe you want to sit your Kraken there, like sit on Kraken and just trade Bitcoin or DCA into Bitcoin. And those are features that we'll have soon. But if you're looking to put your money to work, we're the best possible place for that.
Okay, excellent. By the way, again, we're sitting with Dan Mulligan here, Titus, Tidus wallet.com, Titus wallet.com. Okay, so maybe someone might be asking like cost or, or commitment here, besides getting the app, downloading it, doing the KYC the first time, right? One time, and then transferring some stuff over. Are you guys making your fees on like the transfers? Is that kind of how you guys get paid or is there any other fees that's involved for the user?
Yep. So the average fee is about 1% on a swap. For other wallets, we're 0.15%. So there's a significant difference in our cost because we have micro monetization across the app. We're able to monetize staking, unstaking, lending, and borrowing at a very small level, which means that you're having a better and cheaper experience across the board. And we're the only current app that exists that allows you to lend and borrow in app without leaving. And soon will be the only app that allows you to bridge assets over. So in the next probably 10 days, we'll be rolling out an update along with Wormhole, which is a huge bridging project. They're incredible. And you'll be able to basically in 2 clicks send your ETH USDC to your Solana wallet, all within Titus. You never have to leave. And you don't even have to swap wallets or do anything different. It's just click, ETH right to Solana, Solana right back to ETH without having to worry.
Okay. So I got a couple questions here. Okay, so can you open up trust accounts or business accounts or LLC accounts? I know personal, obviously you can. Like, can you open up different types of accounts?
So that would depend on like what your business setup is. So you can use Titus as your non-custodial wallet if you're an individual. For example, we have some of our like company money in a Titus wallet that we then stake with, things like that. We are not the multi-custodial. So you couldn't set something up with a business partner and now both run the wallet at the same time or do different signing. I'm sure that's something that we'll add in the future, but right now I
Yeah.
think personal use, and then if you're like a sole proprietor, you could probably use it for things like that.
Okay. Yeah. Yeah. There's we do these things called a deferred sales trust. They help people to defer cap gains tax on NFTs, Bitcoin, Ethereum, and other businesses, real estate exits. And there's, we're the trustee, and it's a particular business trust. And, sometimes the places just they don't know how to do it. And it just takes a while to get through. We found a couple that have said yes, but it just takes a lot. I'm just wondering about that. Maybe it's something we can talk offline, but back to the staking piece. So like, let's say I had $1 million in ETH or 100,000 in ETH, right? Or Bitcoin or whatever, right? So I transfer it over to Titus Wallet, and then talk about, like, for those that are still learning about, like, hey, if I stake or to lend it out, like what's the risk there? Like, and I'll maybe compare it to like Robinhood and taking a margin on something, right? Or, walk through that and then just the type of earnings, just so people can know that maybe they're sitting on Kraken or Coinbase and they just don't know. And it's just too complicated, right? And, walk us through, like, okay, you have 100K there, and you do the setup, the KYC. And if you were to stake on average, this is what you can earn. Or if you were to lend, can you walk us through that, Dan?
Yeah, so if you have 1 million in ETH and you transfer it into your Titus wallet, you can now stake in about 3 clicks directly on Lido. Lido will then give you, it's usually between 3.5 and 6%, depending on how the market is on that ETH, and you're earning more ETH, right? So as ETH goes up, it's kind of money begets money. And on top of that, you're now also it's liquid staking. So you're getting stake ETH back. So if you're someone who's very familiar with decentralized finance, you can now take that staked ETH and put it to work, and now start double earning on whatever you have. On top of that, it's there's no lockup period, right? If you want to unstake, go ahead and do that. You do not have to worry about, hey, I have to wait 30 days to get my money or anything like that. And the fees do not compound change based off of how much you're putting in. You're charging that one flat fee, and that is it. And you're only charging it when you're staking. You're not getting charged when you're unstaking.
Okay, this is cool. I call this no sleepy capital, right? Or no sleepy ETH or coin, right? So what you're saying is I can move it over there. And if it's sitting at Kraken or some of these other places that you're not doing this, right? And you get over to you guys' Titus wallet and you start doing this, you can earn about 3.5 to 6%. Is that cash flow paid monthly, quarterly, once a year? Is that spread out over the entire year? So a million at 3.5%. Walk us through like practically what that looks like.
Yeah, so you're getting it monthly. You're getting a monthly interest, and it compounds over the course of the year.
Yeah.
So that number is obviously much higher once you actually get it done. But the cool thing is now if you have ST ETH that you got from staking ETH with Titus, you could put that to work. And a lot of the time, you could put that to work in liquidity pools on dexes. You could put it to work on like something like Yearn Finance, and now you're earning that 3.5%. But your staked ETH is now earning maybe another 3.5% somewhere else. So if you really are doing it right, you could get into a position where you're earning 7 to 15% on your ETH year over year without really having to do anything and just kind of letting the assets sit. And it's just adding to itself. You could actually use that ETH and spend it, right? You could swap new coins, and you could do all sorts of stuff with it. The same way you can for Solana. Like, we work with Marinade. That is what our integration's with. And Marinade does an excellent job of putting you in a position to earn the most yield based off of what the validators are doing. So you could be getting 7, 8% on Marinade on your Solana as Solana's going up. And then if you see a coin you want to swap into, you could swap your MSOL into it. So it gives you a lot of versatility that you're not going to get if you're staking on like a Coinbase. And now that's it. Like your money's staked, it's locked, right? It's going to take 5 days to withdraw. And then on top of it, you can't do anything while it's staked. It's just sitting there. We give the opportunity through liquid staking to give a user the next layer of DeFi that a lot of people don't really ever get to access. And then on top of it, you're getting the best possible rates, not only on the interest, but also on the fees that you're paying.
Okay, this is so cool. And I also want to clarify real fast on the 3.5. So on $1 million, if I take 3.5%, that's 35K per year, right? I'm gonna divide that by 12. So you're saying about $2,100 or so would be the cash flow. Is that doing the math right there on Dan?
Yeah, it would probably be a little bit more because like it fluctuates,
Compounding
and it always
effect.
fluctuates
Yeah.
upwards. So
Right.
you might, like, for example, if I'm looking on the app now, it's at 5.4. So
Right.
it changes based off of what's happening with Lido and
Got
what
it.
they provided.
And if I earn it, I earn it. I don't lose that earning, right? That month, it could just go down to 4.5 or go up to 6 or whatever, right? That just kind of fluctuates.
Yep.
But I'm not risking anything, right? If I'm staking, like it's not like I could lose, right? I mean, it's sitting on, I mean, the ETH goes down on value, but it's not like it's a margin, right? Just to clarify that.
Yeah, it's not a margin. There's no way you're going to lose on it. The only way you would lose is if you took that stake ETH and then you did something risky with it, right? You went and swapped it for a meme coin or
Yeah.
whatever. But if you just sat in that asset outside of the price of ETH going up and down,
Mm.
you're good to
Yeah.
go.
Okay, that makes sense. So that's the staking, and then we mentioned the other ones too, real fast. Just you said lending, right? So what's the difference between staking and lending?
Yeah. So lending is basically taking out a loan against your collateral, similar to
Okay,
a
so it's a
mortgage.
margin, like a margin.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So you're going in and let's just say you have one Bitcoin and
Hmm.
you want to go buy a car, but you don't want to get rid of your Bitcoin and Bitcoin's super up. You could
Yep.
go in there and borrow 20K against that Bitcoin. You're going to
Hmm.
pay a very small interest rate, sometimes 1%, 2%. And
Mm.
now you didn't lose that Bitcoin. You could pay that back at your own pace. Or in some scenarios, right, Bitcoin goes up and you're paying back your own loan with the money that you're making on the appreciating asset. So a good strategy that I've put into play, and I know a lot of others have, is I take my Bitcoin when it's relatively low and I think it's going to go up. I put it in there, I borrow against that, I go buy more Bitcoin. And then when they both go up, I'm now paying my loan back with what's already there. And you're in kind of this spot where the risk is relatively low as long as the market is moving in the right direction. And like you could kind of do whatever you want with that money, right? That is money that is tangible. You could take it out, you could put it in your bank, you could do whatever you need. And you don't have to deal with like a credit check or anything like that. Like imagine if you had a wad of cash and you could go and put it to work in other ways, and you could still go back and get that cash if it's in one of the assets that was.
Okay, I love all this. Now I want to throw a little bit of a strategy here and a thought here. Okay, so we had a client before the crash. I call it the crash, but when Bitcoin was at 54,000 and went to 65, 68, and it dropped to 15, right? So kind of in that area just a couple of years ago, and she never sold Bitcoin. She actually bought it for 50K, and her value went to 50 million. She bought it very early. She worked for Google. She's really smart.
Nice.
Okay, and never sold until she met us. And not that we have some magic thing, except for we can help her defer capital gains tax. So for her, she wanted to be able to defer the cap gains tax living in California, didn't want to move to Puerto Rico. So the 50,000 went to 50 million. So we started with 5 million first tranche. Okay. We're the first to ever do this for our strategy. Okay. And it's an installment sale with the trust. Okay. So we set it up. She transferred. Now in this scenario, we had to use Kraken because that's the only one that was working with us at the point. Kraken, we transferred the coin to a trust account from her personal name in exchange for a promissory note. So she's owed back. So the trust bought and sold for the same price. So the trust had no gain, and now the trust owes her the money. Okay. But here's the cool thing. We exited at 54,000 a coin. The market, shot up and then it shot down to 15, but she was able to capture that value, that 5 million at 54 a coin. Now, she turned around and she invested that into a business startup and diversified the wealth. Okay. But this is the whole idea. We gave her leverage on time. Right. She didn't want to sell the other 45 million. She let that ride high and low. But we gave her the ability to defer 1.85 million of tax and then be able to defer that amount of money, Dan, and then buy back in when it made sense, a lower price, or buy real estate when it makes sense. And so this is called a deferred sales trust. It's our company called Capital Gains Tax Solutions. This is what we do. I'm curious, when you hear that, Dan, like the ability to sell high, and I know most people are Bitcoiners that are true Bitcoiners that they're never going to sell, but 70,000 a coin, you might want to take, if you have 50 million, you might want to take 5 or 10 million off the table just to be able to dollar cost average back in on lower cost, or on ETH or different coins or Solana or different things that are making more sense at the time, right? That's the key here, but do it tax deferred, right? This is the key. Without having to suffer the consequences of capital gains tax in the year of sale, or have to move all the way to Puerto Rico. Any thoughts on that?
Yeah. The Puerto Rico thing's funny. I know a lot of people in the space that live in Puerto Rico. I think that's great. I think that the way, like, connecting mechanisms like what you're talking about to a wallet is going to be something in the future that's probably super important, right? Being able to own the keys and own your crypto, and then being able to put those keys into a trust that
Mhm.
be managed in ways that you're saying. You won't have to pay. So if you did something similar, if you took the million in Bitcoin or 100 million, whatever it was, and then you borrowed against it, bought other things, and they went back, you'd pay your loan, and you could get your Bitcoin essentially cheaper than what you were getting it, and you kind of lock in that value. It's a very similar
Mhm.
concept, but it works for someone that doesn't have a lot. Imagine if you're a new trader, you have 25 grand in Bitcoin. You really want to go buy some of a coin that you want to go up, but you don't want to lose your Bitcoin. You could now go put that uh, into Titus, borrow. You never have to leave the app. Swap whatever it is out. Now, if that goes all the way up, you could just swap back to USDC, and now you have all of your cash gains that you made on that, and you don't have to pay any sort of capital gain on the actual Bitcoin that you borrowed against. That was just essentially free money that you got to trade with. So it
Yeah.
operates as a very, very low interest margin account and enables people that may have cash or Bitcoin to not have to worry about, hey, I have to run a credit check to get a
Yeah.
SoFi loan or something silly and then pay 20% on interest if
Yeah.
something bad happens and whatnot, which is crippling for some individuals.
Yeah, and I think what we're saying here is different orders of using the mechanism of lending, right? So or borrowing, right? So or margin, right? So in one scenario, you have multiple millions of gains. We want to work with the $1 million net proceeds, $1 million gains. So it's going to be a big enough gain. And what you're doing is you are selling, so you're capturing that value. For her, she captured the 5 million, right? She basically was going to pay 1.85 million of tax at 54,000 a coin, deferred the tax, and then diversified the wealth. On the other side, you can borrow against that same 5 million. The downside would be if 54,000 a coin, it drops to 15,000 a coin, and there's a margin call, right? So and now
Yes.
so that could happen, right? So that's the difference. So the key is, if you're listening to this, is you can have the tools for both scenarios, like where you at. That's what Dan said in the beginning, like, hey, if you want to lock this in at a lower price before a run up, you're really solidifying your basis being low, and therefore it's not likely that it drops below that floor, right? So different strategies, different things here. But the other thing I would say too is, like Dan, someone might want to buy some real estate to offset tax, right? They want to buy some something else to diversify outside of the Bitcoin. We provide that bridge to be able to. We'll call it a capital gains tax swap, right? You're
Okay.
swapping ETH or Bitcoin or whatever coin. You're deferring the tax, and you're buying into real estate, tax deferred. And so that could be a cool way. Here's the other cool thing, right? You can do the other way. So you could sell New York, Manhattan real estate, huge gains that has a very low ROE, defer the tax, and go buy Bitcoin, all tax deferred. So we can swap back and forth. We can do it. We've done it with publicly traded stock, private businesses, primary homes, real estate. We've deferred the tax, and then you can buy into Bitcoin. One client, we did a $13 million exit in San Diego. He built this car wash for like 4 million, sold it for 13. We took a big chunk of it. This is 2 years ago, and we bought Bitcoin at about 40,000 a coin. And
Nice.
it's gone up to about 65, 70, right around there, right? And then he sold it at a good gain. And so that's the idea. Like, how do we get time, efficiency, and leverage back to the person who's selling without the complexities, without the red tape, without a lot of the stuff that either kills the tax or just kills the deal, if that makes sense.
Yeah, you do it in a decentralized way, and you do it in a way where you're kind of playing the game of money, and
Mm.
kind of doing it in a way where, like, the reason I love DeFi is you're never going to get a 20% like annual return on something that has any type of guarantee, and you can get that if you're doing it right, and if you want, you could. Like, I had a friend who he bought a whole bunch of Bitcoin when it was at like 15K a coin, and then he just lent it and then borrowed against what he lent, and then just bought more Bitcoin at 15K a coin, and then sold both tranches of Bitcoin at like whatever it was, 40,000 at that pump, and then he didn't have to pay capital gains tax on half of it, and the interest was like 2%. So it was ended up being where he only paid half the amount of gains tax that he would, and it was like this really cool setup, and it's for somebody that doesn't have a lot of capital, right? Like, if you're selling a piece of real estate that's $10 million, you have some level of capital and financial prowess. But if you're a degen right out of college kid who is kind of swapping and maybe using, I have 25 grand and I'm looking to make a difference, you could now put that money to work in a real way. right? They could
Oh,
take that
it's
money, bring it to you, and then have you invest it in a real estate deal, and then you could take all their capital gains tax and do what you do. And then at the end of the day, they didn't have to lose that initial capital or
yeah.
deal with the third party that might be like taking them for what they're worth and whatnot.
100%, Dan. By the way, you're in New York. I grew up in California. Like these are some of the highest tax states in the country, right? And New Jersey, I think, is number one, and it's brutal, right? And so you got to have what's called a capital gains tax exit plan, right? This is what I call it. And you got to have an investment plan, and you also need, in this scenario, you need to have a easy way to manage your crypto plan. And it's the game of money, right? And the times when you don't know you don't know how to play the game, you don't know the rules, then the tax man is going to capture 30 to 40 to 50%, depending on if it's short term versus, long term ordinary income tax. And so, or you're gonna have to suffer the consequences of the timing. I feel like the time is on your side. If you want to learn more about any of this, you can go to capitalgainstaxsolutions.com. You can also check out the book, everybody, called Building a Capital Gains Tax Exit Plan. It's the proven playbook for unlocking your ideal wealth plan when exiting any asset of any kind for yourself or for your clients. That's on Amazon. We got Kevin Harrington from Shark Tank in the book. Pretty cool. All right. That being said, Mr. Dan, we're running out of time. You ready for the lightning round?
Yeah, let's do it.
All right. Knowing what you know now, if you go back to we'll call it your 20-year-old self, what's the one golden nugget to make sure to tell yourself to do?
Just start. Just do it. Don't procrastinate. Don't get into the minutia of, oh, I need it to be perfect in this way. Just start building and get to work. And that's really something that I earlier in my career took a little bit of time. I worked in an S&P 500 company and worked my way up there very early. And I wish that I would have taken a lot more of that time and put it into building what I am now, because getting a head start is king in most arenas.
Phenomenal. That's why you delegate, right? And how do you know when to hire the next role?
Um, I like to hire people and then have them grow within the role and then hire people that then report to those people. I like to build a hierarchy through work. That's something that I've been doing with teams when I was a CMO, and something that I do as a CEO. And that's, hey, hire absolute killers and then let those killers hire more killers as they continue to hunt. And really get yourself into a mode where you have a team that not only do you trust, but that team built itself and they kind of continue to do that. And they're all looking for like-minded people. That's, in my opinion, the best way to scale a good, strong team.
That makes sense to me. I absolutely love it. Or so you're getting the all stars, you're getting the killers, you're getting the best, right? I get that. Like, how do you know when it's the CRO, the COO, the CFO, the whatever it is? Like, how do you know that piece of it? Like, in what order?
Yeah. So for me, it's take it as it comes, right? You might have opportunities where you could do some of the fractional CFO work. You could do some of the CRO work, and then you kind of hit these boiling points and these thresholds where it says, I can no longer wear that hat. And then you're pushing it to the next person. So I could give you an example. I was wearing the product hat for a very long time. I was doing all the product work, all the UX work and whatnot. And then it didn't become sustainable when we started to raise money and do X, Y, and Z. So a product designer and a project manager who were really good became the top of the list. And now those two hats came off and I was able to put on two more hats. And you're kind of in this constant state of just delegating a new hat to a new person, and then they're pushing it down the line as you kind of continue to grow and scale.
So that's rich right there. That's a book or two, which leads to the next question. What's the number one book you've recommended or given for the most in the past year?
I read a book from Naval that was kind of, I think it was just like his memoir. That was excellent. Snowball from Warren Buffett is another really, really good one that is a little boring, but in my opinion, teaches you the basis of financial freedom and kind of how to build that over time without having to take huge risks. Um, yeah, those are the last couple books that I've read.
Awesome. Question number 3, number one way you're using ChatGPT.
Oh, that's a good question. I use ChatGPT for a lot of stuff that involves like reviewing contracts, giving me TLDRs on them, figuring out like little base level stuff, formatting things. I like to keep ChatGPT not making decisions, but optimizing the decisions that I've already made. That's kind of how I view it.
Awesome. Next question, number one leadership quote or theme that you strive to live by.
I had a guy, Bill Reichel, that was very high up when I first got started in my career at Verisk Analytics, which is an S&P 500 that I was working at. And he was just like, one of the big things he used to always say is just do it yourself. Like, if you have a really good idea and you think you could execute on it, just do it yourself. Don't let someone else take that idea, and don't let someone else cloud your idea by telling you can't do it. Instead, be in a constant state of, oh, I could just do it and figure it out, and constantly reiterate on what you're doing and how you could do it better, and optimizing yourself in a personal way and also in a professional way.
Love it. Next question. What are you most curious about right now?
I am curious to see, well, the election coming up. I think what happens with the market after that is going to be super interesting, depending which way it goes. I think for crypto, very specifically, it's a big year. I think you're going to have a lot of really cool innovations with AI and gaming and like just computing and whatnot that comes to life. And I think that you're going to see a mass adoption of crypto on a retail level, similar to what you saw with stocks happen with GME and AMC, who we mentioned a little earlier.
Awesome. And last question, Dan. After all your success, helping all the people you helped, what's the best way that you practice, a mindset of stewardship or ownership, and also stay centered in your values?
I believe in paying it forward. I'm a big pay it forward type person. I think that you could do that in a lot of ways, right? You could do it with monetary value, donating, charity, all that fun stuff. And then I think it's really cool when you get the opportunity to propel someone else forward. I'm fortunate enough to have a lot of people that worked for me or with me on teams that I was able to bolster and get them to a higher spot, or they've left me and they went and started something else, and then they hit me up later for advice or would be an advisor or whatever it might be. And that's like the most rewarding thing that I think you can kind of get, is when you taught someone something and then they took what you taught them and they double down and make it even better.
Amazing. Dan Mulligan, I want to thank you on the show, man. You dropped a ton of wisdom. You answered questions rapid fire. We went for 36 minutes today on how to streamline your crypto investing, how to invest the easy way and manage your crypto well. I want to thank you for being on the show. I also want to encourage you to keep using your gift of delegation and putting the right people around you to help more people invest, create, and preserve more wealth in the crypto space. For our listeners who want to get in touch with you, we remind them one last time, what's the best place for them to find you?
Yeah, Titus.com. Check us out on Twitter too, at Titus Wallet. Give us a follow. Team is super active, so we'll answer any questions you have. And we pride ourselves on being like, we will actually help you if you reach out.
Amazing. Dan, thank you so much. Also want to thank all of our listeners. Thank you for listening to another episode of the Build It to Billions podcast. We're also streaming on Capital Gains Tax Solutions podcast and YouTube channels, where we guide successful entrepreneurs and investors on the journey from millions to billions. We're on that journey with you. We're learning, we're scaling, we're growing. And we believe that the key to scaling all of this is your business and your wealth is and compounding this starts with the mindset every single day of practicing stewardship over ownership and applying billionaire biblical principles. And our ultimate goal is to help you scale and compound your wealth so you can get more all the way. Please share this with someone that can empower today who is new to crypto, is new to investing. I know a lot of our listeners are real estate and business folks who may or may not be in Bitcoin, Ethereum, or crypto investing. This is a great place to start. Why not get started today? Again, go to tituswallet.com. And if you want to build a capital gains tax exit plan, go to capitalgainstaxsolutions.com. Appreciate everyone watching or listening, and we'll talk to you again all real soon. Bye now.